Hello and welcome back to Live Laugh Stuck. As you can see from the title, unless you're just, I don't know, not paying attention to it. I don't know why I keep adding that disclaimer, but it is another Moosestuck episode and we are in Act 6, Act 2, and I am so excited. This is the final act before the Gigapause, where a lot of people can say, I caught up to that point, because it was for a year, so you might have caught up earlier, but you remember that year that you were waiting, so you caught up to that point for sure. Maybe earlier, but definitely then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, pronouns are they, them, which probably should have gone with my name. Hi, Moosey. What's up with you?
I'm they, them, Moosey.
You're they, them, Moosey. Yeah. I forgot your title. They, them, Moosey.
Moosey the they, them.
So, I really want to get into it, but I do want your general first impressions. You know what? Let's start with first impressions of actual Act 6, Act 2, because this is technically Act 6, Act 2, and then Act 6, Intermission 2.
Yeah.
But whatever. So what for the Act 2, for
the Moosestuck part?
For Moosestuck.
Let's see. I just uploaded screenshots mostly where real John teleports into actual Homestuck 662. And I liked it is never advisable to open a pester log. You see, the button is a trap, which, when sprung, releases words upon words, which only serve to remind you of your intense dislike for the people saying the things, as well as how little regard the author has for your valuable time.
It's so true. And also, I forget if I've said this in earlier episodes, but like a lot of people would not click on, they didn't like see the button, or they didn't realize they needed to click on it. Maybe they thought it was just like an image description thing or some optional thing. So there were people who had no fucking idea what was going on after, at a certain point. Because like the first, I can see, like you can just kind of tell from the images what's happening. Like there's a dude in his room, he's looking on stuff, and there's like a pointer clicking on stuff. I don't know if this is also a reference for that, or if this is just like, yeah, people fucking hate when I say a whole bunch of words, and Caliborn is the worst of the fandom, so this is what he thinks and believes.
I know I've definitely struggled with the words pester lugs in the past.
Who hasn't? Really, who hasn't? They're a lot, and I've told you, like, oh, this is the first time I actually understood this information that was being told to me, because this is the first time I've been in conversation with someone who did not know what was going on in Homestuck while I was reading it with them. I don't think I've ever, like, read Homestuck at the same time as someone else, but so I actually need to, like, read this and understand this to explain it, and like, oh shit, this explanation for a thing that confused me was here the whole time, but I just saw so many words, I skimmed it and missed it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's happened a couple of times in this section of reading too. Not nearly as important as the other times it's happened. But if you haven't struggled with the pester logs, have you actually read Homestuck? Or did you just skim Homestuck?
Yeah, it's like I read the words, but then I don't necessarily know what anything means. So it's just like, I guess I'll keep going. I'm like a bad student who just doesn't understand the content.
Yeah. But back to Homestuck, I love that I actually, like, instead of writing it down, I actually, like, went through the effort of, like, copying and pasting things onto a doc, which means I actually have, like, some screenshots, and our first screenshot is John holding his head next to the green curtain saying, "This is really dumb." And I just love that we both pasted that in our files. It's this whole section, Homestuck in its entirety, could very easily just be used as reaction images, or all of John's reactions can be used as reaction images to things you don't like, to stories people are writing that you don't like, or meta that someone's writing that you don't like. I'm surprised these aren't actually common reaction images in the Homestuck fandom.
They could be. Yeah.
They could be. They should be.
I feel like I do need to save some of the images just to use on posts or something.
Yeah, I honestly need to go back through, and I don't save memes as nearly often as I like. I usually just, like, Google them and find them. But I do need to go through Homestuck, this Act 6, Act 2, and save some of these because they're so fucking funny. So I really like, I don't have anything smart to say about it, but I really like the implications of John being able to exist within a Homosuck. Because, like,
I mean, it's canon. It's the
it's
main
canon.
story of Homestuck now.
Yeah, because, like, Caliborn controls the narrative now, so Homostuck is canon.
And then the intermission is just stuff that's going on elsewhere.
Yeah. So, oh my god. John is able to, like, ride on the shitty little horses that Caliborn cut out. And I love that he has these how to draw books, but instead of, like, I mean, obviously he did learn how to draw stuff because these aren't just like the, you know, his scribbles, his right angles. He learned how to do more things, but he also, or I guess, little Sebastian cut out just like these steps to draw a horse as the horses that they're riding, and John is able to ride them. So they are both 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional, and I just feel. Like, I know I keep saying this, but I can't wait to get to the part of Homestuck Made This World about this, because I'm sure people with actual, like, literature degrees or, like, media analysis degrees or whatever the fuck they have will have more to say about this, but I love it. I love Homosuck. I previously did not, and I love it this time.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the horses.
The horses are so fun. Yeah, that's one of the screen caps you had, is when they're all, like, jumping off the cliff with the horses, and John's like, wait, ugh, you're all such morons.
I think it also kind of references back to how Hussey was using a lot of, like, art of other things, like photos from Google search or whatever.
Yeah, for the wizard stuff, and then, like, all of Durst and...
Yeah, and a lot of, like, background images and stuff, too, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. I also like... so I mentioned how Caliborn wasn't drawing. I forgot. I wrote in the notes that it's because he has an understanding of his own limitations, and manga is currently too advanced for him, which is so funny to me. I mean, real, but also very funny.
Caliborn has got to get the webcomic out. He has to, you know, cut corners and, you know, have an art style that works with that.
I think in another world, it would have been really funny if Homosuck at least included a riff on dinosaur comics. Are you familiar with dinosaur comics?
Yeah.
So for those who aren't, it is just
it's like old clip art from like Windows 92 days. Windows like 3.1, like but pre
old
Windows 95. That's what it feels like. Like I swear I have seen those clip art images in like some DOS software.
Probably. And what it is just dinosaurs, you know, they just like have their mouth open. One's like, and it's like what, like 4 or 5 panels, and you know, one smashing a house or something. But it is the same comic. Those dinosaurs are in those positions every single comic, but the words are different. And Hussey and Ryan North are like friends, so I feel like they could have done a reference within Homosuck, and I think that would have been fun. You have the image of the Homosuck Dave, which is alpha male. He's alpha male, holding the porn sword with John crying in the background.
I just always like the little faces when the characters are far away and they're just reacting to the world.
Yeah, that's fair. I love the little faces. There's a lot of appreciations for Orb Rose whenever she's in the background of stuff, but honestly, they're all really good. And I was reminded on the Homestuck wiki that John crying in the background is a reference to Crying Elf from Bard Quest, I think, and then the sword pose is also a reference to Bard Quest, I'm pretty sure. We should read Bard Quest. It's one of the few other Hussey works I've actually read, and it is a more traditional choose-your-own-adventure.
Yeah.
In the sense that you actually have paths to choose and you're not just typing if you were there in time. But and then the sword, the porn the sword is made of is just all the stuff that Dirk drew.
Yeah, the quote unquote porn.
Yeah, the quote unquote porn. And okay, speaking of the reaction images, I you know, it's me, so I got to bring up the time where Caliborn tries to get Rose and Dave to kiss, and John is in the middle of them to stop it, and ends up like tearing Dave apart to stop the fake incest kiss from happening. And I'm like, how are these panels not used by anti-incest shippers in the Homestuck fandom? They're right here. They're canonical in comic. Your boy John, the arguable protagonist of the comic, is saying incest is bad and Durstcest shippers are bad, and you guys aren't using it in your reaction images to stuff. You aren't parading around with this as your flag and banner. There's 2 panels here that would be so perfect for you guys to use. And I don't understand why they're not doing it. And it's like, I don't want to give them tips because obviously I am a shipper. It just makes me disappointed. I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, right? Yeah, and then the panel you got where John's going on a rant, stepped on top of broken apart Dave, is one of the things that I feel should be a reaction image to a media I don't like. Did you want to read what he has to say?
And another thing, why don't you learn to respect girls better? You're just making them follow Dave around like a bunch of idiots. The only thing you're letting them do is kiss the boy whenever he does something brave. That's so lame. All these girls had their own cool adventures. Don't you realize what you're doing here makes you a weird creep? So I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's like so many fics you could put that on, or so much meta, or it's like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like it probably wouldn't 100% work here, but there is a problem within, I think particularly the Dave Cat side of fan fiction. I don't know how much of a problem it is now, but it used to be a problem where Rose and Kanaya would only be around to give them advice, or like the girls would only show up to prop up the boy ship, which I don't think is a huge problem in fan fiction, but I also think that it can be a bigger problem, and using this as a reaction image would be so good.
Failing the Bechdel test.
Yeah, and it's really good. I really love this rant.
Yeah, I mean, it is very... I've seen, like, anytime I try to watch maybe like a shoujo or a shonen anime or something, it's just like, this is exactly what this is, and I hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a lot of books, too.
Oh, God, yeah. There's so many books that are just like this. If you haven't, go through Moosestuck, go through Act 6, Act 6, Act 2, and just grab all of these for reaction images. Everything John has to say here is just great. And then we get on to the intermission, which before you go, like, as you're about to click next, Caliborn's like, hurry up and skip through all this to get back to my cool thing, which is so funny because the end of Act 6, Act 6, Intermission 2 is the Gigapause. So if you click through all of that really fast and you were, whenever it was actually coming out, and you would just hit the Gigapause.
Yeah.
There would be nothing for you for a year. Yeah, we show up for Gamzee sleeping in John's fridge, and he has John's ring. That's where it went. It's just in the fridge. You know what? Dave Sprite should have known to look in the fridge. I mean, he didn't know a ring was missing. There's shit in fridges that shouldn't be in fridges. I guess they, took out all the shelving. How was he in there, is my question.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, did we see inside of the fridge before?
No, but, fridges aren't traditionally just, especially the double-sided doors. Or was that one a double-sided door? Either way, traditional fridges don't just have, nothing in them and you just dump your food in there. But yeah, he's sleeping in John's fridge with the ring, and it's so funny, your sentence, Gamzee is sleeping in John's fridge near where he swiped the ring while being mind-controlled by.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a cliffhanger, but we see who it is in the thing. It's like the comic cut away, and so you just
forgot their name.
Arania. It's Arania, or Arania, or Aranea. Which Domi pronounced it once, and she said that was how it's supposed to be pronounced in, Greek or something. And I really only go through those pronunciations just so I'm not saying Aradia, which then some people argue it's Aradia, and it's not. It's Aradia. But I will change my Aranea pronunciation. I won't change my Aradia pronunciation. But yeah, and so she's trying to be maniacal, and so she's alive now.
What a twist.
What a twist. The evil maniacal circuit was the nice things all along.
Was the nice things all along?
Nice fangs. Apparently a fandom term for Arania was, instead of mind fang, it was nice fang. Or was it kind fang? Kind fang would have been better. It was probably kind fang.
Oh, what does that mean?
Either way, the nice circuit. that she's nice, that she's the nice circuit.
Oh, okay.
So instead of it's a play on Mind Fang.
I
because
see.
that's, yeah. And she goes to do her master plan and gets Jake, who is apparently extremely OP. Like, Hope is OP, and then being a page is OP. And he's a page of Hope, so he's the most OP character.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I guess the implication is that Aradia can heal your psychological problems? Like, that's wild. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean? Like, what does that do? Like, for him, he doesn't seem conscious of it. He's just powering up like Dragon Ball Z over like all of these fucking panels. What does it mean to heal your psychological problems? Why weren't you doing that for your entire friend group? Did you try that on some ghosts that weren't like, you know, your timeline ghosts, but were some Doom timeline ghosts to see what would happen to those friends, and it didn't work? What does it mean? Is my question.
He's just in his own mind hyperbolic time chamber solving all of his mental stuff.
Yeah, I guess, which is I'll get to that later. But at some point Arania gets a call from Mina, which I'm like, can you just get calls from the afterlife? Which is quickly answered with yes, and also Karkat didn't know that you could do that. Because he starts his whole like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't call you, like acting like he ghosted Mina, which is funny because she's a ghost. And then he's like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't know you could do this. Why didn't you tell me we could do this? And it's just a series of panels where it's zooming up on people's mouths saying there's a fucking problem. And this isn't like all back to back. It just keeps appearing throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just like zooming up on Mina's, we have a fucking problem. Zooming up on Karkat telling Dave after having more issues with the plush butt phone watch thing, we have a fucking problem. Dave telling Rose, we have a fucking problem. And there's just so much zooming on mouths, and it was like Jade and Jane, we have a we have a problem. That was funny, if a little too reminiscent of the Rufio Hussey kiss. For some reason, Mina calls Arania Twerkit instead of Circuit. And I'm like, I guess twerking was a thing in 2013. Is that when it was a thing? Why are you calling her Twerkit, though? Did you just, like, come up with it and think it was funny and wanted to shoehorn it into the comic somehow? Because, like, Mina's thing is fish puns, and Twerkit, as far as I know, isn't a fish pun.
Could look up a fish name twerk.
Yeah, I heard you typing. Did you find anything?
Not many results contain twerk.
Yeah. So here's one thing that I didn't super get whenever I was first reading is Arania's whole purpose here, because I forgot. I'll be honest, I forgot. I forgot why she was doing it. She was just like doing some maniacal shit, right? But she is trying to destroy the current timeline and take over a different timeline that does not have Caliborn / Lord English in it. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to destroy the timeline that creates him and exists, for him, and create a new timeline or attach herself onto a timeline that doesn't have him. That part I was pretty unclear about, if there's like another timeline that doesn't have him already, that she's trying to take over, like the alpha, because she says the alpha timeline. So does the alpha timeline not have him? But the alpha timeline explicitly has Caliborn in it. I don't know.
I'd have to see a graph. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's weird shit. So I don't know if she's just using alpha timeline as a phrase and not to mean the alpha timeline we think of, or what. But anyway, so she wants to get rid of Caliborn, like going back in time and shooting Hitler's mom so he's never born. Mm-hmm. Which is a dumb plan. And Mina says it's dumb, and Vriska says it's dumb, and everyone thinks it's dumb, but she's doing it anyway. She's kind of sad that Vriska doesn't like it because she let Vriska corrupt her and thought it was so cool. But yeah.
Was there any foreshadowing to this decision? Because I am completely oblivious to everything. I was just wondering if it was...
I don't think there was any foreshadowing. I mean, there was... I mean, in the sense that Arania was getting real into Vriska corrupting her and becoming more like Mind Fang, which is the Alternian version of her, and feeling more like an active participant in things, I guess. But like when the ring was brought up, she wasn't like, as far as I know, like looming in the background or anything, or saying anything cryptic about it. So besides the fact that she's becoming more devious and is being encouraged by Vriska and Mina, but nothing about this specifically, this action specifically that she's taken, was foreshadowed as far as I know. I don't think like her mind controlling Gamzee was foreshadowed either. I don't know. Which the Gamzee thing, I meant to say this earlier whenever I talked about him being mind controlled by Arania, but in Gamzee circles, it's really common, I think, to talk about his lack of agency, and I think it should be more talked about in wider Homestuck discussions, because dude gets mind controlled or otherwise like puppeted by other people a lot. Like he doesn't have a lot of autonomy on his own for various reasons. He's either drugged up or mind controlled or other shit like that.
And everyone's fine with it because he's a juggalo. It's juggalo racism.
Yeah, it's so funny whenever he when Irania's like, hey, you seem pretty chill. Maybe if I stop mind controlling you, you'll still go along with my shit. And so she stops mind controlling him, and he just starts saying the most foul-mouthed juggalo, vulgar shit. And she's like, no. No, you will stop talking, actually, thank you. I mean, wouldn't you use a lot of expletives if suddenly you had been mind controlled to do shit and then you were allowed to talk for the first time?
Yeah. I guess I can see that.
So Jake's powering up, right? We get a lot of, obviously it is the Dragon Ball reference because he's like enshrined within this cone of power that no one can, or cone, it's not a cone, it's specifically a sphere that no one can break through. And then it's just fucking cut to Arqueus sprite. This power is over
a lot,
a large number. Just continue with the DBZ references, which is so funny. In High Swap Friend Sim, there is a DBZ reference troll, which is very good. And while he's,
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, I feel like the "It's over 9,000" meme lasted, like memes used to last a lot longer back then.
Yeah.
Like this, it's like 2 weeks for a meme rotation these days.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the thing. I'm just gonna go a bit out of time here and just be like, so because of Jake's hope power, Brain Ghost Dirk is able to become a real full-fledged person and like exist, and gives the line, "You kissed my boyfriend, prepare to die." And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And the thing is like, okay, so the thing is a lot of people contribute this to Dirk. And it's not that I'm saying that Dirk is too cool to say this line, but it gets brought up in, like, Dirk-Jake discussions because it's like they ended broken up. But people are like, well, they didn't break up because here Dirk says, or refers to Jake as his boyfriend.
That's Jake brain.
That's Jake's brain. That's Jake's brain's version of Dirk calling him his boyfriend. Which is something to consider when discussing Dirk Jake, but you have to consider that that's Dirk saying it. So, but that also means that that's Jake's version of Dirk, who says, "You've kissed my boyfriend, prepare to die." It's great. It's cringe and it's wonderful. Irania's running around doing maniacal things, and Jane and Jade are trying to stop her because the whole powering up is destroying Durst, and so instead Jade swaps the planets and swaps to her planet, which she's later like, why the fuck did I do that? And I just think that that's just because like that was just a planet that she would automatically think of first off without considering the implications of that. So she tries to overpower Jake, but she can't, even with her super space and first guardian powers cannot overpower a powering up, shouting Tally Ho and Godzooks Jake, Page of Hope.
Mhm. He's just too strong.
He's too strong. He is too powerful, and it ends up creating a pool of lava from like the blowback, which is funny. And yeah, so she gets like knocked out from her fight with Jake, but that's not good enough for Arania, and Arania drops the fucking tower on Jade and kills her. And then like it's implied because we see the clock do its heroic just thing, and we see Arania take it over and stick it on Just, which is interesting to me because I don't like, is it because she's knocked out that she dies that it's no longer automatically considered just, or did Arania push the luck for that anyway, just in case?
I don't know, because
and not
like reading the Ralph.name page, it just said it was judged just, so she died. But it didn't like specify.
That's fair. But like the thing is, I don't know. Like I think that's just too simplistic because it does show Arania like flash for a second on it, or like the Arania like eyes or something, and say bad break or bad luck or something, or something about luck, and like right before it settles on just. So it's not that it was just deemed just, it's Arania made sure it was deemed just to make sure that Jade died. Which Jane of course tries, everyone tries to heal her, but mind controlled Gamzee stops her and implies gropes her, which is weird. I don't know if that's just, I don't know. There's a lot of like weird kind of sexual, I don't want to say sexual assault stuff, but like weird sexual stuff. Because like when Arania says that she's going to heal Jake's mind, she tries to do the kissing thing because they like, you know, he was attracted to her before, but he's kind of like up to his ears.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, please don't. Like you said, Jane doing that, and he's tired of people treating him like a sex object. And then this thing happens with Gamzee, and then whenever because Roxy was invisible, but Arania knew that she was there, and Roxy was gonna try to get the ring off her finger, and ends up, you know, just saying how much she hates Arania, and Arania's like, oh, what good Black Rom advances, but I could never see you anything other than charming. But so many people throw themselves at me like Jake was just moments earlier, but I'm just having fun with you. And it's like, it's just it was just a lot of like weird kind of sexual things in this section. And I didn't really, I don't think I ever picked up on that before. But then like either Gamzee had been mind controlled to do a little feeling up of Jane in the midst of stopping her from healing.
The idea that's like
Jade.
really gross as well.
Yeah,
being mind controlled into.
Yeah, but it's either that, or he had a little bit of agency within his mind control and did that, or it was just a mistake, but we're being highlighted that was like a thing that she thinks happened, and none of that's great, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that she thinks it's happening, but it's not really, is better than being mind controlled to specifically do it or to take advantage of the situation. But I don't know. It was just some weird
vibes.
sexual stuff
Did
here.
not like.
Yeah, weird vibes in this whole section about that. So she's stopped from reviving Jade, but then Terezi comes for revenge. Terezi, I guess, Rose... Oh, no, because she blasts off to go find Gamzee, and she ends up being able to find him here, which I don't know how. I guess her seer powers leads her here. I think it's just kind of convenient that she's able to show up, but what is Homestuck besides that?
Stuff happened, I guess so. Cool.
Yeah, I guess she shows up. Maybe there was something from earlier that I'm missing because it's been a while since we read it, but she's able to show up and fight him. And so this goes against him, like, having agency in order to grope Jane, because he doesn't fight back at all against Terezi because he's being mind controlled and she doesn't know that. So she's, like, fucking slicing him and stabbing him over and over. And, like, you know, just begging him to fight back. And, you know, just unleashing everything from the past 3 years on him, and then smelling Arania on him and being like, oh, you put me down this spiral to feel terrible about myself, which led her to convince me to give me my sight back, which was the worst thing I ever did, or the worst decision I've made, maybe except for killing Friska, who knows. And just like one of the biggest things she regrets, and she's like, were you in cahoots? And I don't think that's the case, but I think that is a discussion people have, that people analyze a bit more, is like, what if there was some sort of earlier mind control happening that led to this? I don't think that's actually supported by canon, but it is an interesting thing to think about, how it was kind of hand in hand, and it did kind of incapacitate her as a seer by that terrible abusive relationship, combined with, she feels like she was almost coerced to getting her sight back, even though Arania was fine with not giving her sight back that first time. Like, maybe, obviously, they had a chance to meet and talk again, so who knows how often that happened, right? It's all off screen.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. So Jane watches that feud happen for an indeterminate amount of time and is like, that was really worth my time to watch. Anyway, time to turn around and try to heal. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the Becks are there, who have loyalty towards Jade ingrained into them, and don't understand that Jane can literally revive her, and are instead protecting her body. And Dave is there also.
I was thinking about Godcat last time. I was like, I haven't seen Godcat in a while.
Yeah. Jane. Oh my God, I'm getting them mixed up.
Terrible 4-letter J name configure.
Right.
This is why I try to never name characters with the same first letter in anything I make, because I know it's going to get confusing.
Right. It's just, I guess the first names had to be so similar because the last names are so different. Unlike with the Strylons, you got the J's. But at least John's different, right? But you got Jane, Jake, Jade. I'm trying to think of other J 4-letter names that would work, but could have just not had them be with J's.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying, and what you're saying, what we're saying together.
There's a lot of 4-letter J names.
Yeah, Jack. I mean, we had Jack as the villain, so he couldn't be that.
Jove, Jace, Joss.
Jace might have also fell into the Jade, Jane, Jace, Jake.
Jira. They just use it for their software configuration. We need a Jira in there.
But like Rose and Roxy, I guess like once, you know what? Because Rose and Roxy have R's, Dave and Dirk have D's, and I guess once Hussey made Jane and Jake, he had to keep the J names. I don't know. It's dumb. Anyway, so Dave is there also and flies after the dogs. Oh yeah, because Jane summons Godcat, who leads the dogs on a chase. Jane was hoping that they would drop Jade before running off, but that didn't work, and instead they just ran off. So Dave is flying after and keeps slipping up and calling her John's hot mom, in which she gets a little flustered by. Which, you know what? Dave Jane Endgame? Dave Jane Endgame, maybe. You don't know. You don't know.
I'm not sure how I'd feel about someone my own age calling me, like, hot mom.
Well, I mean, do you know that you are genetically someone else's mother?
No.
I think that would be different, you know? I think if you were in a weird ectobiological thing where you were the same age as your son and your son's friends, it's such a weird situation. Like, I get what you're saying, but she is the mother, grandmother, granddaughter of John. Genetics is so fucked up. In Homestuck. I mean, in general, but especially in Homestuck.
There's a lot that happened, but it didn't feel very long. Like,
right. It's all like, it reminds me of, D&D, your actions in combat are 6 seconds, right? It feels like we are getting everyone's initiative. I'm just like saying this right now. I did not think about this beforehand. But you saying how short everything feels is like, it does feel like we are just going into everyone's 6-second initiative order. And I do like that they have the map that like occasionally it will zoom out and show you where everyone is. That's very helpful. We do see Calliope, and we see Jade shows up, and Jade is like, I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if I died. I kind of don't want to remember because I feel like I was doing some terrible things before and I don't want to have done that. So she and Calliope do a cute little cosplay. They do cosplay together. I mean, we don't see the cosplay yet, but they say they're going to do cosplay, and they're just having a conversation about like, hey, I could wake you up so you could know for sure if you were alive or dead. But if you are alive and you wake up, I would feel kind of sad because I'd be lonely. And Jane's like, Jade, Jesus Christ, is like, nah, I'll hang out with you some more.
Yeah.
I kind of need to chill for a bit. And it's very cute. I love them hanging out. The fandom does not talk enough about them hanging out, to be honest. I guess because, you know, obviously they talk more about Calliope and Roxy and Calliope and Jane hanging out because they were like long-term friends. But this little conversation is so cute. Also, is that stage, I forgot to like double check and look at it because I could just kind of accept that stage was there. But was that stage from Moosestuck?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, I think it's a stage from Moosestuck. I just love how they had to add in another Wizard of Oz reference, because obviously Jade's whole God tier outfit is a Wizard of Oz reference with the striped stockings and the red shoes, because she's a witch. And then she gets smushed, and you just see her red shoe sticking out, and like it calls attention to the fact that it's a Wizard of Oz reference. And then Calliope hides behind the curtains and says, don't pay attention to the girl behind the curtains.
Yeah.
So it's just like, hey, are you aware of Wizard of Oz?
Hussy loves Wizard of Oz.
Hussy loves Wizard of Oz. This is canon. I actually don't know. I think these are the only... Like, I know he loves... Like, Neverending Story is the much more obvious reference throughout everything, but someone who cares more about Wizard of Oz could make some good comparisons.
I don't know if I've ever watched Neverending Story. I know I should.
I have. I haven't read it, though, and apparently, like, it's way more like the books than necessarily... Or the book than necessarily the... book than the movie. The podcast Homestuck Made This World talks about it a lot more. No, watching the Neverending Story is one of the, like, Homestuck traditions. Like, the Homestuck Discord does movie watches a lot, and obviously Con Air is one of the obvious ones, but the Neverending Story is another one they do, I'm pretty sure. I assume they still do those. I don't know. So, we have Terezi and Gamzee fighting. Yeah. We have Dirk and Arania fighting, and one of the things there is when he shows up, because Arania knocks Roxy out, right, using her mind fang or circuit sleep magic, and so Dirk shows up because he's real and he tries to fight her, and she says, hey, I'll give you one free swing, and instead there's just like a lot of back and forth staring because it's such an obvious trap. And so instead he's like, no, actually I am going to rip out your soul. And this is like one of the few Prince of Heart powers we actually see is, you know, like Calliope said, he is a destroyer of souls as a Prince of Heart. And so he is ripping out her soul in what is apparently extremely painful, drawn out process. Fucking Rose showing up. Hello, Mr. Strider. What are you doing to that troll there? And like, Rose, what's going on with you? Dave said trouble was happening, that shit was going down, and you show up and you fucking see Dirk doing this, and he's like, get her out of here, and which I love. I love Dirk and Roxy's relationship. So, and then Rose like carries Roxy away, and then like she sees Terezi and Gamzee fighting, and after, so Jane ends up getting tired of the Jake shit, throws her trident, that's the word for it, throws her fork, her trident at Jake, kills him, knocks him to the ground, which gets rid of Brain Ghost Dirk's existence, and so Arania is fine and collapses, and that, somehow that was enough to break her connection to Gamzee and not, like, having her soul ripped out of her body, but once Gamzee is himself again, first he's like,
ow.
Hey, you're hurting me. That sucks. Why are you doing this? And Terezi's like, oh no! And drops her weapon. And then he like goes like crazy mode. And instead starts beating the ever-loving shit out of Terezi. And Rose is in the background. Hello,
is this
Gamzee,
normal?
Perhaps you should not be doing that. But perhaps this is normal and I'm being culturally insensitive. Oh, too bad I was so drunk during those conversations with Kanaya.
Mm.
And I'm like, Rose, you were being so polite here. What happened to Grimdark Rose? What happened to, like, I'm going to break the game? Like, I guess you're just sobering up and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. But it's so funny. She's like, hello, Mr. Strider. What are you doing? And, Gamzee, you seem to be awfully rough with Terezi there. It's just, I don't know why I'm making Rose sound like that, but it's just like, Rose, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I love it, though. I didn't have this strong of a reaction to it when I first read it, but it's so funny this time. Kanaya and Karkat also see this going down and are running.
Because they can't fly.
They can't fly. It's like, we can't fly. And also, Kanaya, you're running too fast. You're fucking overtaking me. But then they start running to go save Terezi, and Karkat, like, yelling shit at Gamzee. We are not hugging this one out, that's for sure. Which is very funny. Yeah, go ahead and kill Nepeta and Equius. We'll hug it out after. Terezi, that's a step too far.
Mm.
I mean, I guess it's also been like 3 years of mentally torturing Terezi and everything, and like being maybe mentally torturing is a bit too far, but being like an abusive piece of shit.
Mm.
And so now, like, it's a lot more like, I think it's part of that realism versus fantastical. How I know people hate this, but it's the easiest reference I can make. In Harry Potter, like, obviously Voldemort is the most evil. He is calling for genocide. He has murdered and mind controlled so many people. But it's such an extraordinary thing that when you have Umbridge, who is there in the school personally being an abusive teacher and being, you know, fascist in such a personal, real way, that is like, well, we've had shitty teachers like this. We've had administrations we can't fight back. We've had, like, this sort of micromanaging oversight and academic abuse and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That people hate Umbridge a lot more than they hate Voldemort. And this is the thing in Hives Up Friendsome. We've done, you haven't played it yet, but we've done an episode about a problematic phase episode about two characters who are the most hated character. And Cronus is more hated than, like, Lord English, because he is a sleazy dude, right?
Mm.
And Lord English is literally genociding ghost populations and is, like, ending universes. But Cronus is more hated because he is a sleazy dude. And fuck, what's my oh yeah, so it's a lot easier for Karkat to see, like, personal abuse happen and, like, physically assaulting Terezi in such a more visceral way than kind of the almost, like, I don't want to say funny, but just like the way that he takes down Nepeta and Equius was, for one, Karkat wasn't witnessing it. For two, it was such a, like, crazy thing that was happening all around. Aridin was killing people. Vriska killed someone. Gamzee killed people. Terezi killed someone. And that was all such extreme and I keep coming back to the word fantastical. I don't know what else to say there. That, like, this is much more personal and much more, we are not hugging this one out, even though this one is not murder. I guess it's also in addition to murder.
Yeah.
But clearly, like, that is not part of his calculation here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and the glitches start to come back. I love the glitches so much. I think they're done so well. They do look like actual, like, visual glitches and stuff. I don't know, maybe for an artist it's like, oh yeah, it's really easy. I could see exactly how Hussie made that, like, real simple. But I think it's a very good touch.
I guess that the glitches are coming back because John isn't blowing the world anymore.
Blowing him away. Yeah, John isn't there to keep cleaning it up. Oh yeah, so the Skya orb that was on the head of Jane's fork,
yeah,
fell into the lava because Jane, threw it at Jake, and he fell down and it fell into the lava, and then Jake was revived because he was not killed in a just or a heroic manner. He was just killed. But the fork falls into the lava, and as we see Skya, the Skya bulb fall into the lava, we see lava, like, dripping down over Skya. And I'm just going to go through the Wikipedia telling me what we see from the Skya clouds.
Yeah, because I'm still like, which Skya is this? Is this the original Skya? I don't
Good
know.
question.
I don't know.
As lava rains down through the miniature sky, several visions are shown in the clouds, including Beck and PM taking Jade to. Why are they just saying Beck? It's because it's not Beck. I mean, it's Jack. Taking Jade to her quest bed. Gamzee catches Terezi and Jake attempts to defuse their strife. Rose, being fed up with the situation, fires a spell at Gamzee, which misses and hits Jake's platform, sending him flying. Terezi tries to reach for her cane, but Gamzee restrains her as Arena uses Damara's ghost psychic powers to lift Dirk's sword. Oh, that's what she's doing. I don't know why she's using Damara's powers. I mean, I guess, Aradia did have the power to levitate things. I forgot about that. I just remember her ghost powers more than her levitation powers. But that was a thing. Never mind. Aradia uses Damara's ghost psychic powers to lift Dirk's sword as Jane is attacking her, so she's trying to, psychically stab Jane. Karkat and Kanaya get ready to fight Gamzee, and everyone stops as a vast shadow appears overhead. The battleship Condescension, which I guess is what it's called, has appeared on the scene, and with it, an enraged Condas. The curtains closed on Act 6, Intermission 2.
What a cliffhanger.
What a cliffhanger! One whole year. One whole year before you saw what happens next.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What were your feelings during this section?
I mean, it was interesting because, I guess I don't expect anything happening in Homestuck because I don't know what to expect ever, but it felt maybe more focused in a way, but maybe that's because it was very much the action is stuck in this one area and not hopping all over the place.
Yeah, when it's hopping over the place, it's hopping over to the same area, and we have a map showing where it's hopping. It's not showing where people are.
Not going to a different point in time, and I'm like, what's happening? So I did enjoy this section more.
Yeah, that I'm glad. It's definitely a lot of things are coming to a head after a lot of waiting around. Even with Evil, Jade, and Jane, there was still a lot of little blips of action and a lot of waiting around. A lot of Act 6 has been waiting around with a few interesting things happening, right? Dirk Unite, Synchronize, which are two flashes I have to keep in mind. It was some exciting stuff happening, but it was very brief, and it was going through a lot of places, and not a lot of people were. Dirk was the active one in there who had to keep shit under control. One could argue it was actually Hal, but Dirk was the one we saw in the flashes physically doing things. And the trickster mode technically was something happening, but it wasn't a whole lot. And I kind of forget how much was not happening until we got to this, right? That's a lot of Homestuck. It's not like Homestuck is action-packed, but when there is action, there is a lot of it, and it has been... I just feel a lot longer in Act 6 without a lot of stuff happening than in the previous acts. But I could be wrong. So, from a storytelling perspective, I wish stuff like this had happened sooner in the narrative, because switching over to introducing a whole new set of characters was a lot and caused a lot of people to drop off.
Yeah.
But I don't think Husky gave a shit about that, and he doesn't really give a shit about normal storytelling unless he is critiquing it or explicitly playing off of it. So, yeah, this was a nice section. I really like that not to pat myself on the back, but I really like that I have now conceptualized it as whenever we switch perspectives, it feels more like switching in initiative order to see what's going on, rather than kind of haphazardly, right? You still feel engaged with everything that's going on.
Yeah, because it was so hard to just follow along with jumps previous to this.
Yeah, because they were all much more disconnected, even if it was over. It's like if you are watching a episodic TV show that deals with different characters each story, and then at the end there is an overarching thing, except worse.
So then I could see a lot of discussion. I could see a lot of discussion happening over the next year of
Jesus Christ, so much. This is honestly where we can actually start getting into a lot of fan works, because they had a whole year of nothing but the fandom sustaining itself, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot happens during this point, and I am so excited. For a second, I was panicked, thinking like, "Oh God, is this not actually where we should have left off? Should we have left off like a little bit ahead?" But no. This is where we should have left off. The year Gigapause. It makes sense. God, I was so excited to get here. I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited for what's coming next in the comic. Which, any more thoughts about either, the intermission or Homostuck or the comic in general up until this point?
I mean, I guess reflecting on Homostuck so far, I guess it's refreshing that Hussey knows the reasons why I'm frustrated with Homestuck. They are aware.
Yeah, I don't feel other people think it's refreshing. I think they find it more frustrating because he knows why people don't like it and he does it anyway and then pokes fun at the people who don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also refreshing because he's not just like blindly doing these things. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It has a purpose, even if that purpose is not something you personally like.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the purpose is or how much of any of this is planned out. If they're just like, I'm going to make a twist happen and a bunch of action happen, and then I'm going to just go take a break for a year.
There are actual discussions where Hussey has said how much they had planned out versus not. I know that they had great chunks of this planned out. They didn't have the trolls planned out from the beginning, but they usually had a general idea of what was going to happen for the next like certain chunk of time. They would be leading up to certain things, and then they would be getting ideas as they were going to lead up to those certain things. Like they knew the Alpha Kids were going to happen in some form of another since pretty early on, because there are references to who they would end up being in Jade's house before she even enters the game.
Mm.
But like I said, the trolls weren't planned at first, right? So even though some people point at like the Howie Mandel little monsters thing as a like early indicator of the trolls happening, it wasn't planned that way.
Mm-hmm.
And for this, there are people who say that this whole thing is happening because Hussey wrote themselves into a corner and spent the next year writing themselves out of that corner. I don't know. I don't think that was the case. I think they spent this year perfecting what was going to come out, and maybe there are some things that they didn't have figured out yet and they had to spend the year figuring out. But I've been hyping up a huge Flash that's about to happen, and I think taking that time to make sure that Flash was good is part of it. I think taking the time I think that this time is also taken to figure out the last part of Homestuck. I think a lot of this was also taking time to deal with the Kickstarter. There were a lot of issues with What Pumpkin and with the Homestuck game. It wasn't called Hive Swap at first, I don't think. And I would have to look up to see where the timeline aligns with this. I'm sure other people have gone into great detail besides just Geo actually documenting the actual problems. I think people have like gone into a lot of theorizing about this year because it was such a wild thing for Hussey to do. And no one knew how long it was going to last, right? No one knew to wait a year.
Yeah.
Every day they thought another comic could happen, right?
Yeah.
Probably as they got close to the year anniversary, they were assuming it was going to just be on the year. But like I can't remember. I was there and I was like kind of active in the fandom at the time, not like super active, but I was like keeping up with people's updates. But I'm sure there were people expecting it on 4/13, expecting it on 6/12. There's a lot of theorizing about why this took a year, is what I'm trying to say. And there are a lot of factors that could contribute to it. And I imagine it's a combination of all of those rather than a certain thing. I think that the least likely thing is that Hussey wrote himself into a corner and is trying to write himself out. I don't think that's the case.
So I just figured that they were going to like maybe take a break and, de-stress is what I would have hoped that they would have done. But it sounds like
maybe
not.
That was part of it, but I doubt it. I don't think Hussey really took a break until Homestuck was done. Maybe it's probably more likely there were breaks in this year than in the previous 4 years. Yeah, because Hussey was churning these out so fucking fast. I just don't think a break was a primary concern, but I hope one was. I hope several were taken, right?
Yeah. At this point, was Hussey making a living from just doing Homestuck?
I think so. It's talked about in Homestuck made this world where they theorize it's like merch sells from stuff they have going on. But I haven't looked into it, but I feel like merch sells were a big part of it. The Kickstarter, well, I'm not trying to say that he siphoned it all off for his own living expenses. I'm sure living expenses were part of it, especially since it blew the goal out of the water, which I'm not going to fault people for paying themselves a salary from a Kickstarter money,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, if I ran a Kickstarter, it'd be like, hey, I need money to pay bills during this time. I need maybe like at least $40,000.
Right. And I forget what the original goal was, but it was definitely less than a salary, but it ended up making like over $1 million. I'd have to relook up everything.
Mm.
But I think it was, from what Homestuck Made This World said, it's assumed that it was a lot of the merch sales up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
Also some advertising, but Project Wonderful ads did not rake in a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Hi there, it's Domi, the editor. So, I have a number of corrections to make about the previous conversation. Starting with the subject of how much Hussey knew about what would come after the Gigapause. Hussey wrote a number of news posts during the Gigapause, keeping the fandom well updated on what was going on behind the scenes. In the post on October 25th, 2014, right as Homestuck began updating again, Hussey makes it pretty clear that they had everything planned at the bare minimum up through Act 6, Act 6, Act 3, and that they didn't want to leave the reader base hanging on the end of that act for so long. In these news posts, Hussey also states that a good portion of the time during the Gigapause was spent working on writing and outlining for Homestuck as well as for the Homestuck adventure game, which would later come to be known as Hiveswap. One of Hussey's goals for the Gigapause was to get the entirety of Homestuck finished, such that they could simply come back and have the entire thing ready to just shotgun out. This is not a goal that they met, but as a result, it sounds like the Gigapause was a pretty hectic time behind the scenes, and it wouldn't shock me to learn that Hussey didn't take a rest, even throughout the entirety of the year-long break. Whether or not Hussey wrote themselves into a corner, the jury's still out on, and I'm not going to speculate in the corrections section. As for how Hussey was making their money at the time, Hussey was in fact fully sustaining themselves on Homestuck at this point in time. Hussey, in fact, had been fully sustaining themselves with their webcomic career since Homestuck had started. It's a significant part of how Hussey was able to, initiate the entire crazy update schedule that Homestuck is so well known for. As for the Kickstarter, the Homestuck adventure game raised $2.4 million. The subject of where all of that Kickstarter money went is a whole can of worms that we do not have time to get into here, but yes, almost certainly a portion of it went to Hussey's living expenses. That's about everything I wanted to set the record straight on, so here you go. Enjoy the rest of the show.
And since this is Gigapause time, I'm not saying we're going to take a year off from reading Homestuck. We are not going to do the full Gigapause, but we are going to use this time to take a break. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, our break will be done and we'll be putting out more episodes. So I don't know how much the break is actually going to affect you because we still have some episodes in the back burner. One of them got turned into a two-parter, which never happens. This one, because when Domi started editing for me, I had half-hour podcast episodes, and she was fine when it started being an hour, and now it's getting over an hour, so I'm having to go in and trim things before I send them to her, and then if they're too big, I'm just splitting them. Point is, we still have episodes on the back burner, but we have other stuff that we want to do. Some of it's Homestuck related, some of it's not, and so we're gonna see. Maybe we'll play Bard Quest and do an episode on that. Maybe we'll play Hiveswap Friend Sim. We'll figure it out. We don't have it all lined out yet, but there will be a little bit of a break. So if there aren't Moosestuck episodes soon after this, that's why. We'll have other stuff up for you that will still be good, and then we'll get back into after the Gigapause. Yeah. We still have so much to go. There's still so much that's going to happen, but we're so close to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited.
6-2, so then First page of the next one is 6853 to 8130 is the end of Act 7. So
Yeah, a bit over 1,000 pages. Nothing too bad.
let's see, 1277 divided by 8130. It's 15% of Homestuck as a whole. It sounds like, if I did the math right.
I'm going to trust that you did. That sounds right.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm so excited that we got here. I've been hyping it up for the past couple of episodes because I couldn't remember how much happened between now and then. There were some times that I was reading this. I'm like, oh wait, that happens now and not later. Did I do this wrong? No, it's fine. I did it right. Yeah, I'm just very excited. I am very excited about other stuff we have planned. And yeah, I will see you whenever our smaller Gigapause ends, and I will keep you up to date whenever that's planned to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Cool.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yay.
And this doesn't mean that Moosey's never going to be on an episode again. Like I said, we're gonna have stuff in between. You don't just have to wait for Moosestuck for Moosey. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you. I've been watching too much Markiplier, so I want to be. I'll see you in the next video. I'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you to Domi for composing the theme song and editing the episode. You can find more of her work at soundcloud.com/dominothief. Shout out to our fakest fan tier supporters, Danny the Spoonlord and Tezrak. You can become a supporter and receive early episodes and bonus content for as little as $1 a month over at ko-fi.com/jaxyax, or simply give a one-time tip. For information on and links to my other projects, head over to jaxyax.com. Thanks again for listening.